Hi, I'm Jim. My son Toby is attending Concordia University in a little town called Seward in Nebraska. Yeah, well, it has been a distant dream for a long time, and when you think about going to the US 2 years ago, and then even just 9 months ago, it was just a pipe dream. And it's not easy to achieve everything you set out to achieve in life. But and when you get a result like this, it's great, obviously, and we're really happy for Toad. We just hope that he gets out of it what he sets out to get out, and I'm sure he will. The university is very disciplined. The pre-season stuff was incredible. They I don't know if we said, but on the first day we got there, we had that tour of the university campus, and then he had the pre-season meeting with the NCAA guys, and then I was allowed to sit in on a parent and players meeting, so a bit of a forum where they introduced each other and so on. Then we had dinner in the evening, and at 8:30 they reconvened for a training session, and they trained till 10:30. Now, obviously, Toby's insurance didn't allow him to train hard, but he was there. He was helping out. He was sort of setting cones out and timing and all this sort of stuff. So he was involved, and they worked the boys hard. They worked them till 10:30, and that's how it was for the rest of the time I was there. In fact, on the Sunday, I think I said already that I came home a day or two earlier than I thought I would, because he'd already settled in. They were forming the bond already with the squad, and he was having a good time, and he didn't need me there. So that I think he felt guilty that I'd gone all that way, and I was coming home early. But I said, you know what, you don't need me here, and I'm just really happy that you're settling in, and so it's good. It's not been as difficult as it was with our first child when she went to uni in the UK. That was tough leaving her there. Just that experience. There's no comparison at all. Yeah, I mean, it obviously was something that we hadn't considered until quite late in the day for Toby, as he was going through high school. Some children know exactly what they want. I think Toby knew what he wanted. It was achieving those goals and where didn't really emerge until quite late on in the day. So he came up with the suggestion of going to the US to play football. I think, I mean, basically going to the US to play sport is, I think it's a fantastic option. If you look at how high achieving the US is in all forms of sport, and soccer is emerging there. It is something that is, and the World Cup demonstrated how determined they are as a nation to get better and better at football. And we have to look to them to see how they do these things. And having been to Concordia and having sort of watched the USA play at the World Cup, I can see that they really mean business, and they really enjoy the sport as much as any other nation in the world. Yeah, so I was there just a week ago with Toby, settling him in, and we were very fortunate that we arrived on the right day. It was all looking a bit tight, as you know, in terms of getting his visa and everything, but it all worked out well in the end, and we arrived on Friday, which was the first day of pre-season, and we were given a very quick tour of the university and the facility. And we met the coach and the assistant coach and the sort of team manager and the physio, and they showed us around, and we met the team and the rest of the players in the squad, and it was great. Yeah, it was a really nice day. I got a great feel for the place, and I felt happy as a parent that my son was going to a very good institution, and that he would be well looked after. There were a lot of highlights and a lot of challenges. as I said, the process, we probably, in all honesty, started the process a little too late in the day, and that would be a recommendation to anyone that is interested in doing a similar thing, is to get going as early as possible, so that you give yourself as much time to get through the process. So things for us, Toby had been out of school for 2 years, so he was on his second gap year when we decided that we would attempt to get him into a university in the US. So that did provide challenges. He had to go through the SAT examination process to qualify for his place in a university in the US. And obviously, he, being out of school for 2 years, he hadn't really done too much study. So he had to be prepared for that. And you guys at Affinity put us on to some tutors, and we gave him some pre-examination tutoring, which really worked well. And, Toby rose to the challenge as well. It wouldn't have worked unless he'd been up for that challenge. And he did really well. And I was very pleasantly surprised at how well he did do that. Getting into the SAT exam itself was actually quite a challenge as well. As you know, again, it was quite late in the day, and the available examination places in Hong Kong were quite not in the right time frame for us. So we chose to send him to a school in Taiwan, in Taipei, to take the exam. So he enjoyed another adventure going there for a couple of days, and managed to sit the exam and get some good results. So that was quite good. And the other challenges, obviously, having been out of school for a couple of years, were to do with his academic qualifications that he'd achieved at school and getting those verified. So part of the process was having to acquire approved, certified copies of his certificates for his GCSE and AS level examinations that he took in KG5. And that was quite difficult as well, because I presume that we were trying to do this at the same time as many other people around the world. So the institutions, the Cambridge and Oxford examination boards, were very busy, and their time frames were quite tight when we were trying to get all that information to the university system in the US. So that also was a stressful point in time, but it worked out as well. It worked out okay in the end. I guess the other things were, the main highlight was receiving offers from the universities in the US. I think Toby had 4 or 5 offers, all looking, very good and tempting, and something that we had to work hard on to consider what the best option was. And we evaluated all of the universities. And I think we did listen to advice from yourselves at Affinity, and I think we made a good choice in the end. So yeah, happy with that. Overall, the process was challenging. No one can deny that. I think, as I said, mainly our problem was having started late, but it was a very worthwhile process, and the end result speaks for itself, and it makes it all the more precious, I think, when you achieve something like that. And I honestly think that Toby feels that way as well. He having had 2 years gap from study, I think he then had worked out what he wanted to do, and so he was really keen to make this work, and was willing to do anything that he needed to do to get through it. So yeah, the onus was on him, with support from Affinity and obviously us as a family. But it's down to Toby to get through the process and maintain a cool head and keep going at it. I think we wouldn't have got through it without Affinity is the bottom line. Toby tried to look into this the year before. He had contacted a couple of universities that had grabbed his attention, and he really got very little headway with that. I guess you're in a huge pool of people looking for scholarships, and if they really don't know you and they have no background information that's verifiable easily, then for the universities, the easy option is to take a different route, and that is obviously through recommendations, such as through affinity. So when we began again this year, earlier this year, when Toby was seeking some sort of guidance on how to get through this, I'm not quite sure how, but he obviously came across you guys. I think it was a recommendation through the team he was playing for in Hong Kong here, and he contacted yourselves, and then we set up the meeting. So I'm not sure whether you had too much prior knowledge or how much you knew of Toby before we had the first meetings, but obviously you got to know him and us better, and we got to know you better, and I think the relationship started off really well. Those early meetings that we had, trying to ascertain what we wanted and how much of a commitment it was going to be from our perspective, was really important and set the tone. And the initial impression that we got from meeting yourself and Michael was that, you know, you were very professional and that you were in it for us as well. And that we came away thinking that we had a lot of hope, and you know, we felt that we were in good hands. So I would certainly say that was a major assistance for us in getting through this process. I guess the first bit of advice really is to start the process early. Start considering your options as early as you can, and once you've decided that, you know, that you would like to try for a sports scholarship, then you need to be really determined in making that happen. So in other words, if you go in with it half-hearted, you know, oh, I'm not sure, I don't know if I'm good enough, I think you're probably not going to get what you want. But if you go in with 100% conviction that it is for you and that you are a valuable asset to the university, then obviously you come across as a better asset for them, I think. Then you obviously have to be prepared. And what I mean by being prepared is be prepared to be flexible for a start. So we had to jump hurdles along the way, as I explained earlier. You know, we had to make some decisions about going to Taiwan, about how much money to spend in getting the process through as quickly as we could as well. So there was some degree of flexibility there. So I think overall, my advice is definitely get in early and be determined and know what you want. I'm not sure how much pre-information you can get about the universities in the US. If you have been to the US and if you know anything about universities in the US, then you will be in a much better position than we were as a family. I have very little experience of the US, having only been there once before on a holiday many years ago. And so I didn't really know much about what we were getting into. But I think through discussions with yourselves at Affinity and through Toby's research and talking to other people, it emerged that, you know, this was a good option. And yeah, that is definitely something that I would suggest it's very well worth considering, is university education in the US. So this is my journey. What's yours?